So two simple props for this morning. I'm going to start with a block. I've got a towel wrapped up for ankle bones a little bit later on in the class. We're going to start seated, just bringing the heels in gently to the groins to Sukhasana, letting ourselves settle. So a little bit of rocking around on the sitting bones, waiting for the glutes and the hips to sort of open up and settle. Trying to get the pelvis into that neutral position, relaxing the shoulders, wriggle through the neck if that feels good, shoulder shrugs if you need. And then we can close our eyes, start to settle from the inside as well as the outside. Deliberately slowing our breath down. Doesn't have to be bigger, just takes longer. Allow that effect to slow the heart, calm the mind. And we'll gently let those eyes open. Hopefully that calming breath adds a sense of refreshing feelings into the body. So we can start to work on twists. I'm going to take a static twist over towards my left side to start with. Bringing the hands across, one hand behind on the fingertips. Trying to keep the shoulders relaxed. It's fairly passive stretch. And then a release. Take it around to the opposite side. Just trying to let those legs relax down. Sometimes when we come into these seated twists at the beginning of the class, there can be a reaction of the legs lifting up away from the ground. So you want to try and relax the groin, the sitting bones, outside hip muscles, as much as with focusing on the rotation in the spine. Really, your breath will work on the spine as much as you need to. So it's the legs that actually, I find, need to be considered a little bit more. I'll take a breath from there and then simply rotate out towards the front of the mat. Taking a side bend, I'll go to the left first of all. Just take the arm out a decent distance and then make sure your shoulder doesn't pop forward. Trying to draw that back a little bit. And then we'll just take the right hand up, start to press the right thigh down a little bit. I'm going to slowly sink the arm out until my arm almost touches my ear. The palms facing out to the side. And I'll lift the hand back up. Use that coming down force to help lift from the side. Well, the opposite hand to move out, so it's just coming to the side again. We're just drawing that shoulder back so it doesn't jam in. Taking the hand up. You could cross the legs over if you find it more comfortable. Noticing that I'm keeping the bottom arm straight. I'm not sinking into the elbow on this version. And take the arm back up and over again to help with the lift. Going to untangle the legs and come into hero's pose. So we're still going to be using the block. I'm going to take that portrait wide and slide the block down towards my feet, bring the knees together, then take the feet out wide and allow myself to sit back down onto the black block and gently. So thighs together, so getting a little bit more sort of internal rotation in the leg, sitting tall. And I'm going to take the hands up just above the head, lightly interlaced, so your palms are facing down to the crown of the head. And allow yourself to build a sort of a halo above your head with your hands. Just rolling that round, taking that as far back as you can without dropping the hands down as you come forwards or backwards. And just listening to the quality of the movement in your shoulders. If that is knotty and gritty, you'll be able to hear it. You'll definitely be able to feel it. If it's nice and smooth, that's great. If you're a little bit tight in the shoulders, you might find that a little gritty to start with. If it's sort of clicking and clunking, it's not a problem. It means that you're really tight somewhere in the shoulders. And then we'll go the circle the opposite way. And just notice if that feels and sounds about the same, or whether we can notice the difference from side to side. Again, might give you a little bit of clue to where your tight spots are. And then if this class today doesn't sort them out, at least you know you've got something you can work on for the rest of the day. So allow ourselves to release the hands out to the side. And then we'll inhale them back up again. I'm going to bring the palms together above the head and draw the ribs down and the belly in, exhaling. So generally when we lift the hands above the head, the ribs lift up with us as well. And we kind of get a little bit of an arc in the lower back. So we're drawing the belly in to counter that. The ribs are zipping down. And then we're going to come up for the last time. And bring the hands through the heart. Hands forwards a little bit so I can lift up off the block. I'll just move that out to the side. I don't know where it is. And come on to all fours. I'm going to stretch the legs out just once each side. Bit of release. And then into cat-cow. Drawing the chest forward lightly. Shoulders back and the tailbone up, belly in. Tilting the pelvis the opposite way as you exhale, rounding the spine. Getting that nice stretch into the middle and upper back areas. As ever in a yoga class, always feel free to adapt poses. So for instance, if your wrists were not comfortable here, you can come up onto the fifth. Always remember that during the yoga class, if there's any sharp pains you want to move out of the posture as safely as you can, feel free to adapt any of the postures to your needs. So if you're carrying an injury on one side of your body, you want to try and make the poses as accessible as possible rather than just trying to get into that perfect image that you might have in your mind. And we come back down into a neutral spine. So I'm not clapped into the shoulders and the belly. The belly's actually drawn in a little bit. The shoulders are pushing out wide and away from the floor. So to tuck the toes of the left leg underneath and send that foot out. Raise the heel away from the ground until it's more or less aligned with the hip, and then I'll take the right hand away from the floor, palm facing in. I'm pressing out through the heel and stretching out through the fingers. So I want that to be active. Pressing into the shin of the bottom leg helps stabilize the hip and back of the pelvis. And making sure your hands are actually underneath the shoulders at the beginning helps, but it's a bit late to tell you that. We'll bring the foot and the hand back down, bring the knee back in, get the other leg across the straight, untuck the toes, just lengthen them back, lift the legs slowly, take the hand out when you're ready, try and keep your body on the center line of your mat. You'll be able to feel your abs working, helping with the lift. And we'll bring that hand and knee back down to the floor. I'm going to take the knees wide, close together, so I can sit onto the heels. And I'm going to take the hands just a little wider than the shoulders and turn the palms up towards the sky. So the thumbs are out, and let the elbows come to the ground. So it's child's pose, a slightly different rotation in the shoulders here. I get a sense of drawing the thumbs to the floor, the outside edge of the mat. Lifting the head, turn the palms back down. Allow yourself to still keep the fingers out towards the front of the mat. Going to lean over the shoulders, over the wrists, and then moving into down dog. Allow yourself to pedal the legs out slowly from side to side if that feels good in your body. Start to try to wrap the armpits in towards the face a little bit. And we'll see how we feel in this pose this morning. If you want to be more energetic in down dog, you certainly can be. If you wanted to swivel the legs around, if you wanted to take it into a wavy plank and back into down dog, you can do. Or you could be completely still. You could bend the knees deeply so the thighs are vertical and work a little more into the shoulders and the upper back, if that's a particular area you want to work on. Okay, we'll come back into stillness and the down dog. We're going to come back down into that child's pose, taking the knees wide again, toes together, sitting onto the heels. Now we want the body at about 45-degree angle to the floor, roughly. And then we're going to take the left hand out towards the right side and just drop the shoulder and ear down to the ground. And then I'm going to walk the right hand out as far as I can. And then just ease the fingers towards the center line of the mat or over to the left side of your mat. So you're opening the chest a little bit more and rotating the shoulders up and away from your face. And walk the hands back in. And press ourselves over to the other side. The hands walk forwards. The hands towards the center line. And we'll walk ourselves back out of that. Move forward. Now just bring the knees a little more underneath. So the feet are about hip distance apart. Put the toes underneath. We're going to move into Uttanasana. So we're walking the hands back towards the toes. And then we'll bring the hands onto the shins for a half forward bend. Let the legs open out a little bit. And then we'll fold, just softening the knees again. Come on down. Bring the hands on the chin, we'll lift up again. We'll take a couple of breaths here. And a weight balance evenly through the feet rather than dumping into the heels. And a delicate place where we can stretch the back of the legs out without pushing the knees back. Fold down again. And back up slowly on the inhale. Again, we'll take a few breaths here. Shoulders are drawn back a little bit, so they're out of the way. Belly in. And then we'll let the hands come back down to the floor again. Bring the hands onto the hips this time. Let ourselves lift all the way up on an exhale. Soften the knees, flat backs as usual. Put the arms out wide on the breath in. I'll bring the hands through the heart. And let ourselves exhale down to the floor. Hands onto the hips. Soft knees and flat back in the exhale, belly in. We'll take one more of those. Come back standing. And I just bring your hands through your heart. Zigzag your toes together so they touch. A little gap between the ankle bones. And you still have something to focus on that's not going to move. We're going to shift the weight into the left leg and draw the right knee up. Take it slowly out to the side. We're coming into tree pose. We're going to draw the heel in towards the butt. So we can take the right hand down. Find hopefully the ankle bone. Press the heel and the foot into that thigh. And allow yourself to take the arms out or a little bit of extra balance into a Y shape, palms facing up, shoulders relaxed. Now we'll release out of that. Bring the knee back gently, so down to the floor. Take out the standing leg. Feet back together again. Hands into the heart. Load into the right leg. Testing out the ankle and feet against the floor. That left knee comes up. Goes out slowly. Heel comes in. The top of the thigh. Heel into the groin. Arms out wide. And then we'll slowly come back out of that. Bring the feet back down to the ground. And we can walk gently into the front of the mat. And take a breath. Have your feet hip distance apart, parallel to each other. We'll soften the knees over the toes. And take a little breath. Going to lean the weight into the left leg, so the right heel is lifted. I'm going to slide the foot back into a lunge and then turn it into a star. I'm going to take the arms out wide. I'm just going to allow myself to walk the feet out a little bit more. A phrase that yoga teachers like to use, a little bit more. Now we're going to turn the front foot and the back foot, come into warrior two, so we'll sink in gently. And I'm going to turn the palm on the front hand, but lift that hand high as I drop the back hand down. So at this point, the spine is still vertical. So take another breath in, keep the front knee where it is, and start to walk the hand down the back leg, taking myself into the back bend. And take a breath from there, and then straighten the front leg again, slowly. See if I can reach any further with that top arm towards the back of the mat. Both legs pressing down strong. Feeling intense stretch down the side of the body. Soften the front knee. Come back into the warrior two. Straighten the legs, turn the toes inwards. Turn into the back of the mat. Sink into that warrior two. Turn the palm. Front hand up, rear hand down. Take the breath. Then walk in slowly. Find your point where you go. Yeah, that's as far as I can go. Take a breath. Slowly straighten the front leg. And then see if you can walk a little bit further out to the back of the mat. Increase the inner groins working on the rear leg as well as pressing down through the thigh. And then we'll come back. Warrior two. Straighten the front leg again. We'll turn the toes to the side. Take the feet a little wider apart. Turn the feet into the front of the mat. Sink into warrior two, but obviously a little deeper now. Turning the palm on the front hand. Top arm up. Rear hand down. Take a breath. Use the exhale to slide back. Down your legs. Take a breath. Allow yourself to straighten the front leg slowly. Walk down further if you can. Soften the front knee. Come back into our warrior two. Straighten the front leg. Turn the toes in, try and keep the distance the same, nice and wide. We'll turn the feet towards the back of the mat, sink into warrior two, second side. Turn the palm, reverse warrior, so one up, one down. A breath, walking back. Straighten the front legs slowly. Hand down a little further if you can. Both legs strong. Come slowly back into warrior two. Let the body settle. And then we can straighten the front leg again. Turn your toes in. Allows us to zigzag the feet back in. Very deep straight into the groin. It takes a little time for them to come back in. And then we'll take out as we move into the front of the mat again. We're definitely feeling those legs this morning. We'll take the arms out wide as the inhale. Hands through the heart. We're going to exhale. First one is slow. Taking out for those poses. Taking a breath. We're going to send the left leg back into lunge. And we're just going to come up onto the fingertips and press out through the back heel. So relaxed shoulders. We've got the thigh pressing into the sort of outside edge of the rib. So the body is pretty much parallel to the ground. Back leg is strong, pressing out. I'm going to push off the toes and into a forward bend. Exhale. Hands onto the hips, and we lift up. I'll take the arms out wide again, take the breath to the sky. Hands through the heart. Off the knees, flat backs, down to the ground. And we'll send the right foot back into the lunge. We'll take the knees over the ankle. Again, we're up on the fingertips. Shoulders relaxed, using the legs to do the work. I want to press out through the back heel, so it feels like my back leg is working as strong as the front leg. The front leg, you don't have to do too much about that because gravity's pretty much taking care of all the resistance you need. We want to be able to feel the thigh working on the long leg out to the back and the glutes firing up a little bit on the leg as well. Okay, I'm going to push off the toes again. So a little preemptive push and an exhale into the fold. Bring the hands onto the hips and then sort of lift up. We'll take the arms out wide again. We're going to do that again, but we're going to add a twist into it. Going to keep it nice and simple. Taking the breath in, left leg back. Make sure the left hand is on the ground. So draw the right elbow up first. Allow the body to twist. Then when you've got into place, get the hand up towards the sky, and it's so much easier on your shoulder, your wrist. They feel lovely and relaxed up there. Really sort of just help with a balance more than anything else. You've taken all the rotation through the spine. The hips hopefully are stable and level. The idea of pressing out through that back heel to keep the legs straight is to actually keep the back of the pelvis square to the ground rather than just dropping in and being a bit loose through the hips. We want the rotation through the spine, not because we've got loose legs underneath it. Bring the hands back down to the floor, up onto the fingertips, a little push off the back toe, exhale into the forward bend. Hands onto the hips, and we lift up. Put the hands high again. And exhale. All the way down. So taking the opposite leg out, so right leg back, right hand down, twist, elbow on the left, lift, extend out. Front knee is drawn into the body a little bit. And then we'll bring the hand down. So just a sort of a point of interest, at this moment, my ribs and my thighs are in contact with each other. As I push forward on the toes of the back foot into the forward bend, I want to try and keep as much as possible my ribs and thighs in contact. So as I exhale, you ease into that forward bend, rather than sort of coming forward high and then dropping back in. Bring the hands onto the hips, let ourselves lift up. Inhale to the sky, bring the hands through the heart again, and exhale down. We'll take a breath, sending the left leg back. You're going to drop the back knee down to the floor and untuck the toes. Make sure your left hand is on the ground. You're going to slowly draw the right hand forward. Going to come into a twist. Again, drawing the knee in towards the chest a little bit. And as the hand goes back towards the back of the mat, I'm going to see if I can lift the rear foot away from the floor. Take a stab at finding where that leg is. And sometimes you do get cramp in your calf and your hamstrings when it's closed. Well, you need to come out, you need to come out. But if you can breathe through it, you'll know your body. I frequently get cramp in my legs on this side, not so much on the other side. So we all get it from time to time. Last little breath. Release that foot back to the floor, taking the arm up and over. So it comes in nice and gently. Lift the back knee. Now ribs and thighs are again touched on the fingertips. As you push forward on the exhale, try and keep the ribs and the thighs connected. Makes it much more fun. Hands over the hips, and we'll let ourselves lift up. So we'll come into that last side. Inhale up. Hands through the heart. Exhale our way down. Right leg going back this time. Use the knee to the floor and tuck in the toes. Left hand comes up. Squeeze the knee in towards the body a little bit. Watch the hand go back. Allow the foot to come in. Little lunge around to grab it sometimes. And then open the chest back up and bring the knees back in towards the body. You did move out. And some people can squeeze the heel right into the butt and they'll need to bend the elbow a little bit. Some people will be just grateful if they can hold on to their foot at all. Some people might even need a strap to grab the foot. And we'll release. Hand comes over the top. We lift the back knee. Ribs and thighs still connected. Take a breath. Step in. Ooh. Hands under the hips. Exhale it up. Inhale high. Hands in towards the heart. Going to come down and stepping into down dog, left then right. Feet to the center line of the mat. Going to take pigeon pose. So I'm going to draw the left knee first of all to the outside of the left wrist. I'm going to bring the heel underneath the groin on the center line as far forward as the shin can go, comfortably without hurting the knee or tweaking that. And then walking the back leg away. And send the tailbone down to the floor. So I'll feel that in my back muscles, I feel it in my pelvic muscles, I feel it in my groin. I'll lift onto the fingertips for a little bit of a sit, try and get the shoulders back. And I'll bring the hands down. Tap the toes on the back foot underneath, lift the knee and the hip, and back into down dog. From that position, I'm going to slide the right leg forward between the hands. Bring the hands onto the inside of the front leg. Walk the fingers around to the long side. Give me the feet out a little bit wider, as wide as I feel comfortable to take it. Toes in. Off on the fingertips to start with. Hands about shoulder distance apart. Now as I exhale, I'm going to let the belly button sink first. Then the ribs. Then the chest. Then the chin. Then the crown of the head. And that way we come in nice and deep and slow. And so time is a space. And that time and space that we can move into. Lift the way back up again. Walk the hands round to the front of the mat. Step back to down dog. Toes on the center line again. Going to come forward with the right leg this time to the outside. Heel on the center line. Walk the back foot away. So shin press down, tailbone presses down onto the fingertips. The legs are doing a lot of work pressing into the ground. It's like you're almost trying to lift yourself away from the floor. That way your tummy muscles are activate as well. Your lower back muscles, mid back muscles. Everything starts to work together. The glutes are going to be very clenched, working very strongly. And then we'll bring the hands back down again, tuck the toe on the back foot. We'll lift up slowly into our down dog. No rush needed. This time the left foot comes forward. Bring both hands on the inside. We walk around slowly. Take a little breath. Take the feet out as wide as you dare. Make sure the toes are in, heels are out. Turn on the fingertips and take a breath. Now to make it more fun, we'll turn the thumbs out, fingers towards us, and then walk the hands slowly underneath. But again, you can belly button first. Then the ribs, chest, chin, head. And with a little bit of luck, hands are now flat to the floor, the other side of the mat. Pressing down into the feet, squeezing the groins together a little bit, pressing to the hands for a little bit of balance. Hands back out and around to the front of the mat. Ooh. Come back into down dog. I'm going to take the right foot through front of the mat, hands onto the inside, walk to the long side. This time I'm going to turn the toes out and we're going to sink into the back knee. I'm going to come into a ninja squat. So slowly pivoting on the front heel, toes towards the sky as you sit down onto the back heel. Fingertips on the ground or hands to the heart. Be as upright as it can be. Yeah, just want to press out through this heel so this thigh feels like it's working. We're not sitting into the joint, it's an active leg. You might need to close your eyes to get that to fire up. And then we'll lift up. Reverse back towards the front of the mat and around. Back into our down dog. We'll take the opposite leg through to the left. Leg comes forward, hands onto the inside. Turn around to the side edge. Turn the feet out. Sink into the back leg. Onto the heel. Fingertip. Strong. Extended leg out. And we'll let ourselves lift back up again. And round to the front of the mat. We're stepping back into down dog. For a few breaths. Belly in. Heels pressing towards the back of the mat. Armpits rolling in. Hands flat to the floor. And then we'll walk the hands to the toes. Hands onto the hips. Let ourselves lift up. A pretty slow movements today, but intense and deep. So you're going to definitely feel that afterwards the class is finished. We're going to bring the feet together. It's similar to tree pose. You know, there's a standing pose, but it's called kite. We'll bring the hands in towards the heart to start with. Get the weight into the left leg. So I'm going to bring the right heel off the floor. Turn the toes out to the side. So big toes still on the ground. Just the knee out to the side now. Take a little breath. I'm going to take the hands out to the sides and then into a Y shape, palms facing up. Now, with as little rock out to the left side as possible, I'm going to lift the big toe off the ground and extend the foot out so it just has the big toe hovering off of the ground. Now, it probably is going to bounce into the floor a few times as we wobble around a little bit. That's not a problem. That's a very strong leg. The toes are pointing away, thighs are lifting, pushing down through the standing leg to lift myself up out of the hip, rather than collapsing into the joint balance and trying to get the muscles to work. So this looks very similar. I would say it's subtly different, but it's actually hugely different when you're dynamically pressing the feet into the floor and trying to get those legs to be as strong as you can underneath you. There's just sort of happy medium between strength and stiffness and flexibility. When it comes to balance, you need a little bit of everything. And then release the hands down. And as you bring your foot back in slowly, notice how far you moved back into the center. At this extreme, few inches, and then you definitely need to be pressing down more into that active leg to stop yourself from swaying out to the side. You want to try and stay upright like a lamppost, at least one that hasn't been bumped into by a teenager. We'll allow ourselves to bring the hands in towards the heart. Not saying that I did that when I was a teenager, but you never know. Pressing down into the right leg, left heel lifts. Toes go out slowly to the side, knee goes out. That's when we get the first introduction to being active in this leg that we're standing on. Take the arms out wide into the Y shape. We press down, extend the toes out to the side, lifting just off the ground a little bit. Strong leg. It's kind of hard to press down through the foot without clawing the toes in, but if you can manage it, that's great. And we'll ease the hands down again and bring that foot back in. Again, just measure how much of a wobble there is. And take out the legs. We'll come back in towards the middle of the mat. Just squat down nice and easy. And going to use the flat block again. I'll take that behind me so I can sit down. Take a couple of seated postures here. So just wriggling out through the sitting bones a little bit. Let's take the left foot under and out to the right hip, coming into a seated twist. So that side now down on the ground. Right leg comes across. Back foot if you can. Knee high, tilt the pelvis forwards. We're going to take the left arm off and come into the twist over to the right side. And then release. And we'll take that over to the second side. Taking the right arm up and over. Do simple long breaths here. Belly drawn in a little bit. Both sitting bones, about the same amount of weight distributed. And we'll release from there. Get the legs out again in front, together, and then I'm going to bring the left heel into the groin, knee out to the side. Gently to Sukhasana, hand onto the chin, little bend in the knee, lots of space in the spine. I'm going to fold over from the hip, ease my way down. Keeping the chin in a neutral position to the chest. Hands on the top of the chin. Spreading the toes out in front on that front leg and pressing the heel into the floor a little bit. The toes pointing up towards the sky. In my leg, my sort of foot tends to roll out to the side a little bit because of the weight of tightness and the formation of my hamstring. So for me, I have to think about drawing the leg inwards a little bit to get a little bit more aligned to the center. I'll take a last breath there. Use the hands now to the floor to lift back up slowly and cross over to the other side. The legs go out together. So we know where the center line is. Heel into the groin. It presses into the thigh a little bit so it stays flexed. Knee on the ground. Square the hip. Little knee lift. Ease my way in. And notice those lift up hands again and coming in. So this is where my rolled up towel, folded towel comes up into use. I'm going to come into Tadasana. So I'm crossing the legs, but crossing at the shins rather than the ankles. So my feet are underneath my knees. They're that wide apart. It gives me the most rotation in the hip joints. This is what we've been working on, the hip muscles and the joints themselves. This front shin more or less follows the line of the mat. It'll lift up, take the fingers out in front, and then fold over. So the reason that I have the little folded towel underneath my ankle bones is that I have very bony ankles. Not that that's important, but it's a pressure point and it's really painful. It's like sitting on a drawing pin with both my ankles. So even with a decently thick mat, I find it's not enough relief. Towel folded over a few times underneath each ankle. Solved all the problems, and now I can sit here and breathe happily and relax, as opposed to cringing a little bit. I'm hoping I get out of the pose quickly. So we can spend a little time here. Those hips are still opening out. This is sort of more akin to a yin practice move. We're just going to sit here and let gravity do the work for us. Now, if you're able, I'm on my elbows, but if you can get down lower, that's great. And if you can strictly higher, that's not a problem either. Got the belly loosely held in, just really to keep it out of the way. And I'm going to let myself lift up slowly using the hands and untangle the legs, making a note of which one was out in front, and then cross them over the opposite way. So spending a little bit of time to get my feet out as wide as the knees, and following the front line. When I'm ready, fingertips. Let yourself hinge gently down. Let's see if we can get to a similar position on both sides. That's really more for noting where you get to more than anything else. Shoulders relaxed away. And relax the feet, ankles, knees, thighs, hips, glutes, lower back, middle back and shoulders. And I can lift up from there, untangle the legs. Going to move into Savasana. Coming towards the back of the mat, knees high. And then slide the heels along the ground. When you're ready, just checking that your back feels happy to be flat on the ground. If it's feeling uncomfortable in the lower back, it's done a lot of work. Those hips and glutes and lower back are all connected. So it feels like it's overly worked, overtired. Bringing the feet closer, wide, and knees together so they knock into the center, little TP. Is a more neutral position for the spine and releases the muscles a little bit more. So this doesn't feel naturally comfortable, try that. We'll be here for about 5 minutes. Soft jaw, eyes are closed. Again, we're going to just internalize how we feel Notice whether we can relax fully or the muscles are starting to have a slightly different idea of what you're trying to do and what you're actually hoping for. See if you can let yourself either melt or float, whichever works for you on the mat. Keeping those eyes closed. Begin to wriggle fingers and toes. And as you breathe a little deeper, begin to move the ankles and the wrists. Nice flowing movements. Allow the extra energy that you brought into your body to stretch out in any way that feels good to you. If you haven't already, slide one heel at a time towards you. And then let the legs come in one leg at a time. Just taking the hands lightly around the shins. Roll a little bit from side to side, doesn't have to be big. That time with an exhale, roll completely over to the right side. Let the knees and the feet come down, then turn your chest to the side and onto the floor. Look away from the ground gently. Move me back up to sitting. Hands into the heart. A longer breath as we sit full. Close the eyes. Begin to let the skin bow Feeling the belly drawn to the spine, follow the bow to the floor, doing your practice for the morning. And on the inhale, letting the spine lift back up, and the head lift, eyes open. Namaste. Thank you for joining me this morning. Hope you enjoyed working on your hips and your glutes. See you again on the mat then.